That's one of the buildings that we support. Okay, don't use this. Okay. Put this down and step away from the remote. Okay, I've got it. Why don't we put that video on? Can we do the video? Well told, and it's just such a joy to be part of this organisation. Um, since we as a church committed to supporting international students through Red Frogs programs, it's actually been your dedication and your generosity that's made such a significant impact on the lives of plenty of students already that have come to study in this city. As most of you know, international students, they face unique challenges when they arrive here in this new place. Many of them are far away from their families, from their home cultures. They often struggle to adjust a new language, new customs, a new way of life. Some of them experience culture shock. Others face discrimination, prejudice due to race and ethnicity. Yes, that still happens in Adelaide today. Additionally, many university students face financial difficulties. They find themselves actually paying higher tuition rates and higher living expenses than domestic students. So your support for these students, the way you support them with relationships and with resources and assistance that helps them thrive. You're helping them thrive academically. You're helping them thrive socially. I want to show you a bit of a slideshow of our involvement as a church in Red Frogs in particular over the last 6 months. So hopefully that's all working now and we can kick off with the first slide. And I'll just say next slide whenever I need another slide, and I'll tell you when I'm done with that. So, oh yeah, I forgot. We didn't start in the student accommodation, did we? We started last year at the Adelaide Oval. So we, as Red Frogs, went and supported the cricket, the patrons at the cricket. So there's us in the team briefing room, which is actually the away team room for the AFL clubs that come to Adelaide Oval, doing a bit of a briefing. Next slide. There's some of our guys there. You see that? Peter, Lena, Margaret's there. John, Alice. So there's some of the guys at the briefing before we get out into the crowd. Next slide. There we go. There's a team getting ready. Sunscreen. We've got water. We've got Red Frogs. We're ready to support and engage the crowd, particularly the heavier drinking areas. We like to get in there and make sure they're staying hydrated. We use all those skills that you saw in the video, and we take them out to the crowd on the hill at Adelaide Oval, which are very necessary. Next slide. Hey, there we go. There's familiar faces. We're in the old scoreboard there. One of the benefits of being a Red Frog at the cricket is you get this pass and it lets you go anywhere. So a few of us sort of scampered up into that old scoreboard in Adelaide Oval when the staff in there showed us all around, and we got a few selfies and had a good view. Next slide. Yeah, there's Alice in the scoreboard. Look at the view through that little window. Great place to watch the cricket. Just don't touch anything, all right? Next slide. There's John. Yep, same there. Look at that view. Isn't that great? That was good fun. Next slide. There's Dave. We told him not to touch anything, but he's just pulled on one and changed the score accidentally. No, he didn't at all. That's Dave Eastick. He was serving at the cricket on a 39-degree day, and he was 90 years old. And everyone was so excited about that the media crew wanted to interview him. They came back the next day to ask me if they could do that, but he'd been on the shift the previous day, so we missed that opportunity. Next slide. Oh yeah, there's my 15 seconds of fame. Getting interviewed down on the boundary there to talk about Red Frogs. Next slide. There you go. Look at that. There's me at 18 foot tall, which is amazing. Next slide. Okay. Who remembers this? Who remembers receiving this? So this is where I call out to volunteers at the start of the year so that we can be engaged in welcoming students as they arrive before O Week. Next slide. And we did respond. There's some of our guys on the barbecue. So now we're at White Sweets. We're out in the courtyard. We did a great welcome day. It included a barbecue. Plenty of volunteers at the barbecue. Next slide. There's our toasted sandwich crew, all kitted out in the Red Frog aprons. Next slide. More toasted sandwich action happening for the students. They love toasties. Oh, there we go. There's Cynthia. And there's Tatiana and Cesar. They're right here today. Hey, guys. This is like the first couple of days after getting off the plane, meeting us in White Sweets. Next slide. There's Pastor Simon. He's always there every Tuesday morning faithfully. Everyone wants to talk to him. No one wants to talk to us. That's not exactly true. It's kind of true. It's not exactly true. Next slide. Oh yeah, we had a bit of a competition. We had a skateboard and some frogs that students could win. A lot of students entered the competition, which was great. Next slide. How do we go? Oh, there we go. There's the winner. There's Ethan. He won the jar of frogs. He guessed the right amount for that jar of frogs and won the whole jar of red frog lollies. Interesting thing is he's a dentistry student, so that was kind of awkward, but he's kind of happy to get them. Next slide. Okay, there's our mate with the skateboard. There's Ingrid on the side photobombing. It's good to see Ingrid's been out here a couple of times. Next slide. What do we got going on? Yeah, so we also get out to parties. So Y Suites themselves throw a lot of parties, different things, ways of engaging students. So we often get invited and we just go and hang out with them at these parties. Next slide. Oh, this was great. So this is kind of what we do when we get invited to a party. We put the call out to see all the people that love to bake in our church, if they'd be willing to bake something that we can take along for the party. So this is just before it started, because I think about 10 minutes after the party started, that was empty. But we found it really good, and what really connected with the students is they actually put signs up what the recipe was, but also who baked it for them. Just roll the little video which comes up next. So recently that's actually Westcare Chapel. So recently we've been collaborating with Westcare Community Centre. They've been putting on a dinner every fortnight for international students, and we've been meeting with students from Y Suites once a month at the building and walking down to Westcare Community Centre to join in with these community nights. Next slide is the same thing from a different angle. So they've been great. They've been really well attended, and we get to connect with a larger group of students, not just from Y Suites, in that context. Next slide. Okay, so last year we used to arrange about 1 or 2 events a month maybe at Y Suites as we were getting started, but thanks to all your commitment and support this year, that's almost doubled. So that's what May looks like. April looked kind of similar. There's 4 different student engagements going on in Y Suites there every month on site. And we send a tile like this out to all the students that we've connected with through social media or email or whatever at the start of each month, so they know what's coming up and what to engage in. So what's been really extra amazing this year, because that is very specifically Red Frogs, but what's been even extra amazing this year has been that so many of you have offered support to students that we've connected with beyond just Red Frog stuff that's happening in whether it's at the cricket or at Y Suites or other kind of events. Many of you have actually been offering students with friendship and meals and transport and mentoring and language practice and local know-how, and you've been helping to ensure that these students, our student friends, feel extra welcome and extra supported while we're in this city. I'm just going to show you a few more pics, and we're going to have a look at where our serving through Y Suites has also grown into connecting outside of Red Frogs, outside of just the bits that we do for Red Frogs. So let's have a look at the next slide if we can. There we go. So that's back at the start of the year. That's at the end of O Week. We organised a Welcome for Students Day, and we got a really great response. And behind the scenes there's people organising transport, driving people from the city and all the rest. On the next slide. We then went off to Michelle and Prash's place. So next slide. We put on a bit of a party. There's some table tennis and eating. Next slide. We had the swimming pool. They got the swimming pool going. So a bunch of students jumped in. What a great experience to go down and be part of a pool party, an Aussie pool party, and some wood oven pizzas. We kind of took that and what we've done is we've do another tile that we send out to some students that we've connected with a little more deeply, just to let them know the stuff that's going on at Knightsbridge that they're welcome to get involved in. So this is kind of the example that we used in May. as you can see. Sunday the 14th, Sunday church with lunch afterwards, 10 a.m. start, 9:30 study pickup. So you see some of the students around here, they've received that at the end of April, and they've gone, yeah, I might go along on the 14th of May. So that's outside of Red Frogs. That's about stuff that the church is doing for extra connection with the students. Next slide. And what you see with these, there you go. There's a bit of a selfie from the Sanders hosting lunch back at their house. Next slide there. We've got, there we go, the Merediths. They took some students out after church. They went to base camp and had a great afternoon, and they're sending me the selfies through and stuff afterwards. Next slide. There we go, Len and Judy. Len and Judy hosted some students for lunch as well after church, and they had a great day. Actually, go to the next slide, because after lunch, Len and Judy took the more active and physically fit students out for a walk to Moriata Hall. Actually, go to the previous slide. Right, now go back to the next slide. See who's missing? All right, we better go to the next slide. Keep talking. That was wonderful. Students had a great day. There we are. We're there with Jared and Assad when they connected with Knightsbridge. We thought we'd take them out, and a few of us there that you'll be familiar with took them out. Actually, just show the next slide, because this is a very important moment for Assad in his induction into Australian culture. That is Assad's first chicken palmy. All right. You haven't experienced Australia until you've had a chicken palmy, and there's Assad having a palmy and a lemon lime and bitters, which is great. Next slide is, there's Joel, who did the reading today. That was Joel's first sushi train. So he's used to very exotic food in India, but he hadn't experienced sushi train before. So we went out and grabbed some sushi train after church one Sunday. Next slide. How far are we in? Oh, of course. How could I forget? Pizza with the pastor. Simon started this earlier this year, wanting just to connect with 3 or 4 young adults in our church. And since then, poor Susanna, we've just swamped them. Every second Sunday evening, we've been going to Simon's place. And I think we've had, what's the most we've had for a Sunday evening? Come along and... 15, not counting the chens. So sometimes we really overwhelm them. We overwhelm them with food, but they're always a really great night as well. So the next slide. Oh, okay. Oh, did I give away the next bit of the talk here? I just want to mention before we look at that van any closer, also the Ridleys today, it's Mother's Day. And we got students saying, oh, come along to church. And I was like, oh no, what if everyone's going off for lunch with their mother for Mother's Day afterwards? But the Ridleys, Marg and Rod and Sue's going to help. They're actually taking these guys out for lunch at their house afterwards. So it still continues. Thank you. A special thank you on Mother's Day for doing that. I know that takes a little bit of extra effort. We've had people picking up students left, right and centre in their cars. But we've just had this van, I can say we've had this van donated to us from our Queensland office. It's high mileage, but we can take it and we can use it. So in the next couple of weeks, this van, which is an 8-seater van, is going to be rocking up in the Knightsbridge car park, and it's going to be helpful for some of these runarounds and other Red Frogs activities, which is really exciting. And we want to particularly thank the World Focus team, because they, as part of their commitment to our Red Frogs mission, are going to help fund the running costs of this van for this ministry and mission that we've been doing. So all this is really good, and all this is really wonderful. Is that van going to distract you? Can we go to a blank slide? All this is really good, and all this is really wonderful. And but the question that so many students ask me, and so many student accommodation managers and staff ask me, and all these university welfare staff are actually asking me, is why do we do what we do? Why are we doing this? Why do we care? Why do we voluntarily give up some of our time and donate some of our personal finances to supporting these students? Why? This stuff we've been doing just generates these questions from people. Well, first of all, if you're not looking for a too deep a reason, and you're looking for a really good reason, can I just say that spending time with these young people and getting to know them has its own rewards. It just does. They're just really cool, and they're really interesting, and they're really fun to hang out with, and they're really nice, and you could do it just for that reason, and maybe you should. But I'd even say that our church community is better, that it's more vibrant and livelier place for having them around. Would you agree? Yeah, absolutely. But today is a Sunday, and I am a pastor, and this is a church, and there are often very real motivations for us, as Christians in particular. We are motivated and compelled by the message of God and his love. And I want to touch on some of them. Firstly, we're called to love our neighbours as ourselves and to care for those in need. So Joel read that Bible verse. It was from Matthew chapter 25, and it was really meaningful. Jesus teaches us that when we care for others in need, we're actually really caring for him. He says, "For I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes, you clothed me. I was sick, you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me." This passage reminds us that when we serve others, we are actually serving Jesus himself. When we welcome strangers into our community and we provide for their needs, we are fulfilling his commandment to us to love one another. Another motivation that comes from the Bible that holds weight in this regard is the Great Commission. And you'll normally hear about the Great Commission all the way through May Missions Month. The Great Commission is found in Matthew 28, verses 19 to 20. We just put that up on the screen. And Jesus came and he said to them, "All authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. Go therefore, make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you." This commission reminds us that our mission as Christians is to spread the gospel message. The message of good news, the message of peace to all people, regardless of their nationality or background. And by supporting international students, we actually have this opportunity to share the good news with some who may never have heard it or experienced it before. When you come to Knightsbridge, when students come to Knightsbridge, they can actually learn about Jesus, they can ask questions, they can explore questions of faith without any pressure, without any judgment, without any expectation. They are simply welcome here. And we have had students connecting with us this year and last from Islamic faith background, Buddhist faith backgrounds, Hindu, agnostic, all engaging with us here. And this is a safe space without pressure or judgment or expectation, and they are all welcome, and they all continue to be welcome here. And the final motivation, the final Bible passage I want to touch on this morning is the parable of the lost sheep, which is found in Luke 15. And you can look at that later, but I'm going to read it for you quickly. Jesus is explaining what heaven and God is like to some people, a bit of an audience that he had. And he tells them that when one sheep goes astray, the good shepherd, that's God in the story, leaves his 99 sheep and he goes and he finds this lost sheep. He rejoices when he finds it and he brings it into his fold. It says here in Luke 15, "Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together. 'Rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep.'" This parable reminds us that every individual is valuable to God and that he seeks out those who are lost and in need of his love and care. And as volunteers and financial supporters of Red Frogs, you're fulfilling this teaching. You're doing your bit to fulfill this teaching. You are reaching out to those who may feel lost or isolated, and you're providing them with support and guidance and encouragement. Now, not all international students are feeling lost and isolated. That's not necessarily the case. But certainly we know that part of our motivation is that we are there for those that are as well. Let's go to the next slide. So our work's not finished. There's so many who still need our help and our care and our love. Some are going to be struggling with loneliness and anxiety. Others are going to be facing financial difficulties that threaten their ability to continue their studies here. In just a couple of months from now, like in July, another wave of new students are actually going to be arriving from overseas for the mid-year intake. That's more students for us to help welcome into our city. And as we continue to support these students, we have to, as a church, remain committed and remind ourselves that we are on mission to serve others and share God's love, because that is our eternal motivation. That's our eternal motivation, and it comes from God. So I want to take this opportunity today to, if I haven't already, through my talk, express my deepest appreciation for each and every one of you for your support of Red Frogs and your support of the church's other young adult activities. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you from me as the uni student and young adults pastor. Thank you. Thank you on behalf of Red Frogs. Thank you. And I'll even thank you on behalf of the students themselves today. Thank you. Your dedication and your generosity, it's just made a tremendous impact on the lives of so many students. And I'm actually been really inspired this year by your selflessness and your compassion. But lastly, I just want to challenge us to keep serving these students and to continue to give generously to this cause, to these programs and events. I want to talk about three needs that we have, current needs that we have in this space, in this ministry, in this work. First of all, we're looking for people who can connect with students or a student and do life with them, perhaps not so randomly, but a little bit ongoingly. Invite them over for meals, take them for a drive. You'd be amazed how good it is to go for a drive if you haven't got a car and you're stuck in the CBD. Check in on them from time to time, make sure they're doing okay. Spend time sharing your story with them. Spend time listening to their story in return. Maybe even answer a few questions about faith or God or the church or the Bible if they have any questions like that. Next, we still need ongoing financial support. We cook 50 or 60 toasted sandwiches every other Tuesday morning at Y Sweets, and all those ingredients, unfortunately, they just don't buy themselves. The pancake shakers, the prizes that we get together for games nights, the sausages for the barbecues, all of that good stuff that helps us serve so that we can connect, it all costs something. So please continue to offer your financial support. And the last thing we need is just some regular commitments just to do more of what we've already been doing this year. But rather than sort of every week, and this is what happens every week, I'm ringing Sue. I've spoken to some students. I'm ringing Sue. Sue's scrambling around. She's kind of trying to find some folks that this week can do some student pickups or take some students to lunch, or make up a special care meal for a student that's not well, or something like that. And then we repeat the cycle all over again next week. So we're looking for some kind of steady offers of commitment in those spaces. And what I mean is, instead of kind of this commitment that says, look, come and ask me if you need, and maybe I can help. We'd love just a few more folks. So that's still going to be a reality, but we'd love a few more folks who can say, put me down for this particular way of helping. I can do the first Sunday of every month, or I can do every second Sunday, but you can count on me at those times. When you let us know that we can count on you in advance, it actually helps us, because we can confidently then offer that support to students, knowing that the church is there to deliver on it. So that's helpful. That's our third thing. So last slide. So as we continue our support for these wonderful, amazing, fun students, let us remember the words of Jesus at the end of the reading from Joel today. Truly I tell you, whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me. Let's continue to serve others with love and compassion, knowing that we're serving Jesus himself. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Dave, stick around. Oh. Yeah.